Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Xiong. One of China's leading inoculation candidates turned out to be 50% effective in late-stage trials in Brazil, significantly lower than earlier results showed. The candidate is Sinovac's CoronaVac. While it still meets the 50% threshold the World Health Organization considers good enough for widespread use, scientists said a lack of transparency about the data risks damaging its credibility. Brazilians and the people in other developing countries are already reluctant to take it. China's effort to boost its image to the developing world suffered a setback. Previously, Butantan Institute, a São Paulo-based public institute that is the first to complete late-stage trials of the CoronaVac vaccine, had said last week that it was shown to be 78% effective and offer total protection against severe cases of the disease. But Brazilian scientists accused the trials organizers of misleading the public. On Tuesday, Butantan admitted those rates only included volunteers who suffered mild to severe cases of COVID-19. When data from all volunteers was considered, including those who contracted very mild cases of COVID-19 and required no medical assistance, the total efficacy rate fell to 50.4%, Butantan said. From Latin America to Africa and Asia, many developing countries have pinned their hopes on CoronaVac and other Chinese vaccine candidates as richer nations snap up inoculations developed in the West. CoronaVac can be stored in an ordinary refrigerator, making it cheaper and easier to transport than others that require sub-freezing storage temperature. Yang Zhonghuang, a senior fellow for global health at the Council on Foreign Relations in New York, said, I quote, "This will have profound implications domestically and internationally. From the very beginning, China has raised people's expectations about the effectiveness of China-made vaccines," unquote. Beyond mainland China and Hong Kong, Turkey and Ukraine are among nations that have reported orders for CoronaVac, and where regulators would also be closely watching for efficacy analysis. Brazil has agreed to buy up to 100 million doses, and the 7 other Latin American countries have been in talks to obtain the vaccine. Sinovac and Butantan had initially scheduled to review the efficacy rate by December 15, but delayed it a week, citing a decision to collect additional data. A week later, the announcement was delayed again, which Brazilian researchers attributed to Sinovac's request for more time to consolidate data from trials in Indonesia and Turkey. Denise Garrett, an epidemiologist at the Washington-based Sabin Vaccine Institute, who worked for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta for more than 20 years. She said, I quote, "It's extremely unusual. I've never seen this. They had already delayed the results. It seems they found them to be unsatisfactory, so they came up with a way to announce the results in a more favorable way," unquote. The lower success rate could push governments to purchase from drug makers whose vaccine have higher efficacy rates. If the vaccine has an efficacy rate around 50%, it's going to be hard to justify including it in the national vaccination program. But if we have a society that doesn't have the means to acquire all of the vaccines it needs, authorities might say, 50% protection is still better than nothing. In Chile, officials said they would go ahead with plans to import some 10 million doses of the Sinovac vaccine, the first batch of which was expected this month, said Rodrigo Yanez, a high-ranking official in the Foreign Relations Ministry in charge of importing the shots. Mr. Yanez said CoronaVac would still be effective in preventing deaths and overwhelming hospitals with COVID-19 patients. Many flu vaccines have an efficacy rate even lower than that of CoronaVac, public health specialists said. As China brought COVID-19 under control last year, the country's vaccine developers turned to foreign nations to conduct their clinical trials, choosing Brazil, Indonesia, and Turkey. The widely differing results from those countries have only raised more questions about how well the vaccine works. Countries with high numbers of COVID-19 cases provided researchers with a bigger sample size of infected volunteers, allowing them to test vaccines faster and produce more accurate results. More than 200,000 people have died from COVID-19 in Brazil so far, second only to the US, turning the Latin American country into an ideal testing ground for vaccines. Researchers in Turkey, which is at an early stage of testing CoronaVac, said late last month that initial data from around 1,300 people in late-stage trials showed the vaccine to be just over 91% effective. On Monday, Indonesian authorities reported that preliminary results from their clinical trial of CoronaVac showed an efficacy rate of 65.3%. Although it isn't clear how scientists there made their calculations, although that rate was based on data from a trial involving just 1,600 volunteers in the city of Bandung. Indonesian authorities this week greenlighted CoronaVac for emergency use. It isn't clear whether Indonesian authorities knew the full extent of the data analysis from Brazil. The country has secured 126 million doses of the vaccine, batches of which have already arrived. In contrast, more than 12,000 health workers took part in Phase 3 trials in Brazil, the first country to complete tests of Sinovac's vaccine. Of those volunteers, 252 contracted COVID-19, 167 of whom took the placebo and 85 of whom took the vaccine, the Butantan Institute said Tuesday. Butantan researchers on Tuesday defended their decision to release partial results first, saying that it is more important to know how well the vaccine protects people against more severe cases rather than all cases. CoronaVac's relatively low efficacy rate means more people will need to take the vaccine to achieve herd immunity, making it even more important for its developers to be transparent and reassure the public about its efficacy and safety, doctors said. Infectious disease specialists blame the skewed results on both pressure from São Paulo's government and Sinovac in China. Political observers in Brazil say that São Paulo Governor João Doria, who spearheaded Butantan's partnership with Sinovac, has politicized the vaccine's development by championing its use in his increasingly public tussle with President Bolsonaro, who has long disparaged the Chinese vaccine. Mr. Doria is considered a likely presidential candidate next year. In November, Mr. Bolsonaro warned his followers that CoronaVac vaccine could kill or disable them without offering any evidence. Mr. Bolsonaro, who last year recovered from a mild case of COVID-19, has dismissed the disease as nothing more than a little flu and said he doesn't plan to get vaccinated himself. A recent poll conducted last month showed 50% of respondents would refuse to take any Chinese vaccine. When respondents were asked if they would get vaccinated, knowing vaccines are produced by many countries, the refusal rate dropped to 20%. While Butantan has found itself caught in a political battle in Brazil, its Chinese partners imposed strict controls on what information could be publicly shared. Hours after Butantan announced the CoronaVac to be between 78 and 100% effective last Thursday, Brazil's federal government announced it would buy up to 100 million doses of the vaccine. Chinese authorities approved the CoronaVac for emergency use last July, but have yet to approve the vaccine for broad use. The Council on Foreign Relations, Mr. Huang, says that lower efficacy figure doesn't preclude China from still allowing the vaccine to be used widely. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.